It's 4 o'clock on, what day is it? Thursday, May 8th, 2025. It's the appointed time and place of the Bismarck Renaissance Zone Authority's May meeting. And I see that we have a quorum present, so we'll call the meeting to order. And the first item of business would be to review and consider the minutes from the April 10th meeting. Any corrections or comments or changes? If not, move to approve. Is there a second? All in favor say aye. 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 Opposed, same sign. That motion carries. We'll move on to the regular agenda. All right, whose phone is on? Joe? Oh. The one item on the regular agenda, and we've got Isaac at the podium for the Jousting Lemur outdoor seating request at 514 East Main Avenue. Isaac, take it away.
Yes, thank you, Chair Christensen and authority members. Our only regular agenda item today does come to us from Ryan Eckroth of the Jousting Lemur, who is requesting approval of downtown design review of seasonally permanent outdoor seating for the Jousting Lemur Wine Bar at 514 East Main Avenue. That is there within the downtown zoning districts, if anyone was curious. And in this particular area, the sidewalk is about 11 or 12 feet wide, with only that one light pole acting as a possible obstruction in the general vicinity. And the project will consist, as initially proposed, of a fenced or barrier delineated outdoor seating area as shown on the screens there in this simple site plan version submitted by the applicant. The proposed area is 19 feet wide, extending 4 feet out from the edge of the building. And the height of the fence there, though not listed directly, will be about 4 feet according to the applicant. And the proposed materials, once I get there in a second. So this is just an overhead aerial of sort of how it might look. We'll take this with a grain of salt because aerial imagery is not always the most precise. But there could be about 4 feet or so from that light pole to the edge of the seating, and still having about 7 or so feet to the edge of the curb there. The proposed materials would be a resin fence, and this would facilitate some what the applicant described as bistro tables. So just 3 tables of 2 seats each, total of 6 seats in this area. And as we know from our design review meeting last month, these requests require a encroachment agreement with the city engineering department. The applicant is aware of this. They have submitted for that already, and that would be contingent upon this approval here. What's shown on the screen right now is actually something not submitted by the applicant. This comes to us from our design advisors, just to kind of for discussion more so than anything. This is not necessarily a recommendation as opposed to what the applicant submitted, but just showing that if the light pole does appear to be an issue, they still have room to extend the seating area outward closer to the curb if needed, and have some kind of triangular edge there, or making some extra room for that light pole. So again, this is not necessarily a recommendation one way or another, but a point for discussion if needed, so long as we are able to maintain the 48 inches of uninterrupted sidewalk space for pedestrian access. That's both in the streetscape standards and is also referenced explicitly in the encroachment agreements. So going back to what the applicant has proposed here, staff do not find any particular issues with what is being proposed, and find that the proposed design would not adversely impact public health, safety, or general welfare, and that it is generally consistent with the Downtown Design Review Guidelines, Comprehensive Plan, Bismarck Code of Ordinances, and relevant state law. Therefore, staff recommends approval of the proposed outdoor seating at 514 East Main Avenue, with, of course, the standard condition that any major revisions to the design come back before the Downtown Design Review Committee.
Questions of staff? Nancy?
Isaac, is that, if they were to angle the wall there, is that enough room for a wheelchair to get through? Like, does that design meet the ADA requirements?
So I'm not sure how far, Authority Member Guy, Chair Christensen, and Authority members, I'm not sure how far out this particular rendering is from the wall there, but given that this is 5 feet from the curb, I would say that's about 7 feet or so from the wall, so it would depend on the width of the tables. Same thing for the original bistro seating design, as shown here, being about 4 feet wide out from the building edge. It would depend a little bit on the width of the seating area, or I should say the width of the tables themselves.
I'm talking about between that light post and the edge there.
Oh, so yeah, in
Not
this,
inside the barrier, but outside
That'll have
of
to
it.
meet ADA.
yes, it would have to meet ADA, and it is in this particular case, so long as there is 4 feet distance from whatever the edge of the barrier is to that light pole, that would meet both minimum ADA requirements as well as other recommendations such as the public rights-of-way accessibility guidelines.
Okay.
Other questions?
I can just speak to
Oh,
the
David.
ADA dimension is 32 inches.
For a
So
sidewalk, too?
Yeah, our local, yeah. For that condition, where it's a pinch point, the minimum is 32. Our local ordinance, I think, says 48, so it's,
Okay.
more restrictive
More restrictive.
than what ADA is.
Okay, good, Joe?
Just to confirm, the engineering department, have they given you any feedback on what they'd rather see here? Is it, like, we talked about this last week, right? Is it from the curb, or is it, you need to have a certain amount of 4-foot space from the light pole? Has there been any more discussion there?
In this particular case, Authority Member Fink, Chair Christensen, and Authority members, that minimum of 48 inches would be to either it would be to the light pole in this case. It's 48 inches if there is an obstruction, which could be a light pole or a street parking pole or something like that. Otherwise, the requested minimum is 72 inches of sidewalk length.
Other questions? And I have one just as practicality. So the submitted plan shows a 4-foot wide space, and you're indicating 5 feet. I guess from a practical standpoint, how do you get a chair and a table in 4 feet I guess maybe that's the proprietor's problem, not ours, but.
Isaac, I can speak to that. So this drawing that's up on the screen, this was my reaction in the similar way to the original proposal. Is that really enough room to use the space? And my suggestion was, well, you could, capture a little bit more of this width of the sidewalk if you just chamfered that corner a little bit, meet the minimum clearance around that pole. And then for the rest of the length of the space, you could come out a little bit more. So this was just sort of to depict what I was suggesting might be an option for the applicant. So they're not asking for this. This was my reaction to what they were asking for.
We're here to
Wondering
help.
how useful is that 4 feet of space actually? I created this drawing just to kind of illustrate to Isaac just my feedback to the applicant, really like, well, maybe you could ask for this, but I don't think they are, so, but, yeah.
Okay. I guess if the customers have to stand, it's not our problem.
Yep.
Right, Joe?
Last question on here, just the design of the
No offense.
design document that's in here. You're measuring from those bases flare out quite a lot in what the materials that they're looking at providing or using. If you look at that top section, I'm assuming that's 4 feet from even the base section, right? I mean, that's the whole purpose, is the
Base-
walkway.
The post base.
Yes, Authority Member Think it would need to be 4 feet from the barrier to any obstruction in this case. Yes.
Would all these materials be removed in the fall for the winter then, or is that a question for the applicant, or can you answer that?
I can attempt to answer that because I do not believe the applicant is here today. But yes, they would need to be removed in the fall, as all other
The other ones are, too.
seasonally permanent outdoor seating would need to be.
Okay. Other questions or comments? What are your wishes?
Move to approve as presented.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any further discussion? Hearing none, call the roll on that one, please.
Second was.
Oh, Steve Bakken. The guy in the hat.
Authority Member Greg Zanker,
Yes.
Bakken,
Yes.
Fink,
Yes.
Dahl,
Yes.
Dvorak,
Yes.
Guy,
Yes,
Herzog,
Yes.
Chair Christensen.
Yes, that motion carries. Thanks, everybody, for that, and thanks for your input on that, David. It's, as I said quietly earlier, we're here to help, not to hinder, so that's very nice. We're going to move on to other business, And due to time constraints, we're going to switch A and B around and move temporary sidewalk art discussion up to the first item.
So, Authority Member Christensen and Authority members, I'll just give a little introduction, then we do have a guest who can speak in more detail about this as well. But this is something that planning staff was made aware of, as well as engineering staff. There are some... There we go. So there are some folks, both in the public health department and local artists, who are interested in putting some temporary sidewalk art in the areas depicted on the screen, roughly in these areas. Exact locations could be shifted around a bit, but this would be in the general area of Brick Oven Bakery for one, the northeast corner of the intersection of North 5th Street and East Broadway, and then on the north side of the library as well. The tentative designs, as submitted by the artists that could be doing this, would all be generally nature-themed or similar outdoor type themes. The main reason that staff are bringing this to your attention today is just a little bit of clarification on something in the ordinance. Planning staff and engineering staff do not have any particular issue with this, but there's a clarification on sort of how public art is handled in the downtown. Public art is defined as any sort of mural or artwork, so long as it does not have any like logo of a company or a brand name or things like that. However, and it does say that, public art should be reviewed by the Downtown Design Review Committee, but all of the criteria for approval are assuming that the artwork is going on the side of a building and not necessarily on the sidewalk itself. So planning staff do not have any concerns with it being approved without a full formal design review, given that this is temporary and all of the criteria for a formal approval relate to buildings and not a sidewalk. But we did want to bring this to your attention for any feedback or thoughts and whether or not it should require a more formal review. Again, planning staff are comfortable with not requiring that. We do have I don't know if the applicant is the right term in this case, but someone who is more heavily involved in this project than I am, who could speak to some of the finer details of this as well. It is, from my understanding, funded already, so they're not necessarily looking for any other funding or opportunities like that. Just wanted to bring this to your attention for any feedback.
So does it require approval of this body? Does it require our approval?
That is sort of the question. If you are comfortable, approving this without a full design review, or if you would want it to come back in a more full design review capacity. This came to our attention after, late enough in the review cycle that we were not able to provide a formal staff report and things like that. But planning staff, given what we have seen, are comfortable, approving it with your consent without a more full and formal design review.
Do they have a timeline of when they would be installing this artwork, and is there a plan for it might rain the next day, or just kind of keep it up a little bit? And
Great questions, Mr. Bakken. My name's Molly McLean. I'm a local artist, avid arts advocate, and a contractual arts administrator. And I'm working a little bit with the Bismarck Downtowners as of late. But I'm wearing my hat. I do contract work as an arts administrator and connector of local artists with Bismarck Burley Public Health, and have done that for the last couple of years. As to the timeline when this would be installed, would be as soon as possible, just because our seasons, as we know, winter just ended, right? Because it's supposed to be 90. And so as soon as artists would be able, or as soon as possible, they'd love to begin working. And as for wear and tear, so this the funding is through, I believe it's a Blue Zones grant, and the purpose of this is for movement and livability. So you see these movement mazes will be what they are.
so as far as materials, so it holds up a little bit, or is there anything?
Yeah, and there's a couple of examples. At the zoo, painter Nicole Gagner has done a couple of movement mazes there. It holds up through the winter. That was sort of a back and forth with city planning is who gets to make that call when it looks bad? What does that mean? Our winters are harsh. I know south of this location, so south of here, I hear there's some pretty darn good snow removal that happens with a bobcat and brush. And so that would probably clear away soon after the snow fell. As far as at the library, that's north of, so that would be on Avenue B. And the library grounds, people said, that will probably wear throughout the winter, and we're okay with that. There's not a whole lot of traffic there, foot traffic in the winter. As far as the materials, specifically, it's exterior paint. And then we're looking at a sealant. That would be an exterior sealant. Looking at a couple of different ones. Parks uses an anti-graffiti coating, but there's also, we've used marine sealant, so could keep it for a good amount of time.
Okay.
But with public art, I think the general consensus is it is ephemeral. It will wear and tear, and that's just the nature of it.
Well, it does hold up pretty well at the zoo, so I was just kind of curious what. Okay, thank
And
you.
and also, just to be clear, at the zoo, there have been a couple of rounds of funding where it's been redone. So these, I don't think would, at this point, they wouldn't be redone
No
annually.
plans for touching up or, okay.
It's more just, there's funding now, we'll see where it goes, and maybe, hopefully, they could be touched up.
Other questions for Molly? Joe?
Just maybe for staff, but any plans at this point for curb and gutter or replacement of those sidewalks? I'm assuming they were picked out on purpose.
Sure. So Authority Member Fink, Chair and Authority members, this has been, the engineering department has been part of this discussion so far, and they have not raised any concerns about interfering with other work or operations in the proposed areas, as far as I'm aware.
And then I'm sure this will be a part of your discussion as well, but should the city need to remove this, what kind of cost are you looking at? Is it, I mean, I assume pretty minimal?
That is, yeah, it could be on the order of power washing of some kinds. The exact cost of that, I am not able to say at
Couple
this
of man
moment.
hours to get some power washing done. Thank you.
Other questions? Yes. Let's see.
There isn't anything bad that could end up in the storm sewer, is there? I know we're not supposed to pour paint down the storm sewer, but, so if it's coming off, in one big swoop, is that a bad thing?
I wouldn't eat it. I wouldn't eat it.
No,
I doubt it's lead paint.
Well,
no.
I would guess it would be about the same as the paint wearing off on your house, right? Like your paint naturally just comes off your house and
Yeah,
makes its way down the sewer.
How many gallons of paint are we talking total, do you think? Any idea?
I mean, the stipend for paint is not gigantic, and I would assume it's a few quarts from Lowe's or Menards.
oh, okay. Well, it probably isn't any worse than, the striping and the crosswalk markings
Which
and
get
stuff
redone
that
every year.
come off during the weather, so.
That might be more industrial too.
Yeah.
I don't know the chemical makeups by heart of paint at this point. I'm getting there.
Like I said, we're here to help, not to hinder, but there's always a fun wrecker in every bunch. So.
And there was a movement maze that was done at Northern Plains Dance. So right by there, that was right near the crosswalk from their parking lot to the crosswalk. And that did only last about a year. But we're looking at using a little bit different paint. However, that probably went somewhere.
To the
I'm sorry,
zoo.
I don't have specifics.
Other questions of the applicant's representative? And do the downtowners have an opinion on this, Kate?
We've talked with Molly about it a little bit, and there's other city departments that have already approved it, so I don't think we're gonna catch anything they haven't caught already, so we're good with it, yeah.
So I guess the action would be to motion to approve.
Move to approve.
Is there a second?
Second.
You got that, Sandra? Steve and Nancy? It's been moved and seconded that we approve the temporary sidewalk art. Any further discussion? Hearing none, call the roll, please, Sandra.
Authority member Bakken,
Yes.
Fink,
Yes.
Dahl,
Yes.
Dvorak,
Yes.
Guy,
Yes.
Herzog,
Yes.
Zinker,
Yes.
and Chair Christensen.
Yes, that motion carries. Thank you. Thanks, Molly. Best of luck. And now we will return to downtown streetlights.
Yes, so
Isaac.
Chair Christensen and authority members, this is sort of an update on things. As you remember from a few meetings ago, there was talk of some downtown streetscape improvements in the area of South Fifth Street and along Front Avenue, and there was talk of a broader discussion on the downtown streetlights that we didn't necessarily have enough information at the time to present anything for your consideration or discussion or feedback. At this time, we do know a little more about some of potential ideas or options. So we have a representative of the engineering department here to speak a little more on that, and I will let her introduce herself and go over what she has prepared.
Sounds good. Welcome, Ms. Oster.
Good afternoon. I'm Linda Oster, Assistant City Engineer from the Engineering Department upstairs. Here to talk again about the downtown pedestrian street lighting. Just to give you an update, Public Works is currently working to update all the city street lighting to LEDs. They are very efficient lights. They cut down on our electric bill, and it's been a goal for us to get them done for several years. After this construction season, we will only have the downtown streetlights to finish. We were hoping to get them done this year, but we've ran into a problem. The downtown streetlights are metal halide fixtures, which, you know, when those light fixtures or those lamps go out, they're very hard to find. They're very expensive if we can even find them at all. So we've been retrofitting LEDs in them anyway. There's only a handful that we've done that with. But because of that, you know, we know moving forward, we were attempting to maybe retrofit what we have downtown already. We're running into a problem because a lot of the fixtures are very old, they're very fragile. The plastic globe, if you will, has been, it becomes very brittle in the sunlight over the last 20-some years being out there. And so some of the fixtures we can't even find replacements for, we're taping them together. This is not where we want to be. So some of the challenges we are facing is that it's not just one fixture out there. We have 4 different manufacturers. All the brackets that you see, the banner arms, they are all custom made. We have 2 different types of tenon configurations and 3 different kinds of poles, 3 different manufacturers of poles. It becomes very difficult when you're looking at upgrading it all. We know that we have to go in and replace the entire fixture at a minimum. The problem is some of the fixtures we have the brackets as an integral part of that fixture. So you can't just replace the fixture, you have to replace the bracket as well. So as we're looking at this and looking at the cost of doing that, let me go back to the cost. As we currently only have one manufacturer that is willing to make this fixture. And you can see the type of fixture up in the corner. It's just the pedestrian fixtures, it's not the overhead lights. And they use the integral bracket arm. Therefore, if we replace them all, we're replacing all the brackets. But we'll have to revise or make some concessions because not all the tenons that they fit onto the pole are exactly alike. So as we're looking at this, we're thinking, you know, this is probably an opportunity to ask the downtown community, do we want to stay with this fixture? The first project was done in 98, so that's 27, 28 years old by the time we get to this project. It's time that we should ask this question. And if we want to stay with this fixture, we certainly can. But I think there's an opportunity to look at some options and see if we can't find a cost-effective way to light our downtown and provide maybe something a little freshening up. So really what we're asking, we have over 200 fixtures downtown that need to be replaced. And we also have those on 3rd Street that we put in last year that we'd look at as part of this process as well. We also have 30 new fixtures that we're planning to install along Front Avenue, between 3rd and 7th Street for 2026. So this gives us the opportunity to look at this now.
Linda, a quick question, if I may.
Yes.
When you say fixture, are you referring just to what sits on top of the post, or are you talking the whole thing from the sidewalk?
When I'm talking fixture, I am talking the bracket arms and what sits on top of the post.
Not the poles.
Yeah. I think we have to look at it that way because we have such a conglomeration of, or a mixture of, brackets versus the heads, and some are integral, some are not. We have to look at a complete change out.
Thanks for clarifying.
Yeah. And that's, as we're looking at the bracket arm as well, I think we should ask the question, are we comfortable with that custom banner arm? And I bring that up because this becomes a very expensive component. If that's what we choose to do, that is completely fine. But over the course of the years and manufacturers dropping out from supplying this for us, we have increasingly paid more and more to install new and even to replace them. The fixtures themselves are well over $5,000 a piece. They're significant. Yes.
Are there brackets that that are not custom that we could use?
There are.
And would that be a problem then with banners fitting on them?
It shouldn't. They would be a standard type bracket arm that all you would have to worry about is the bottom. And currently we use a bracket arm that is banded to the bottom of the pole, but the bracket arm that is integral to that pole component we wouldn't have to worry about that anymore as far as having an upper bracket banded to the pole. It would really clean up what is out there today.
We have a representative here at the table that installs signage or banners.
Intimately familiar
Do you have
with
any
climbing these.
questions or thoughts?
Just so, and Linda, when Linda says banner arm, she's talking about the metal piece like that. We don't attach any banners to that currently. That's just like an artistic piece. Right now, there's different hardware with fiberglass arms that stick out, so there's 2 on the bottom and 2 on the top. So I assume what you're saying is if you replace the metal piece now, that you'd have kind of built-in 2 on the top, and then we would just do the bottom ones.
I think when the arms were initially designed, it was intended that there would be banners on or used for banners. I think not only are the banner arms custom, those banners would have been custom and probably very costly as well.
Are the downtowners okay with a bolt-on banner or, aftermarket type deal? Right?
I think as long as they fit the pockets of the
they?
banner,
Yeah.
that should be fine.
Okay.
Okay.
Sorry to interrupt you. Continue, please.
That is completely fine.
Okay.
What I wanted to do is share some of the different options that we were looking at. This one here is very similar to what we have in some of our residential areas. We would get this in a dark bronze. All of these that I'm showing you, we would try to match the color scheme that's out there today, so they match with the poles and they match with the 30-foot poles as well. Either one of these would be acceptable. You can see up. You can see up here. Here's a standard T bracket arm. That would be something I would be looking for our banners.
Steve?
Yeah.
Steve, we have a question.
Linda, over the course of 27 years, and of course things have changed, manufacturers have dropped off, is there a uniform standard within this section of industry now that pretty comfortable going forward that it's going to be around for a while so we don't wind up getting into this hodgepodge situation again?
You know,
I know things change over a long period of time, but
they do.
But is there a direction that
I think what I'd want to do is pick from a manufacturer that will be around, that has given us some stability in other areas of town. The ones that I am showing you today, previously, the Hall of Fame fixture. Hall of Fame has supplied for the city for well over 25, 30 years.
so they've been around and are going to be around?
Yes, yes. And they value their relationship with us. We have a lot of their poles and fixtures, so.
Did you have other examples you wanted to show us?
Yes,
Okay.
if,
Isaac. So while he's doing that, will these fixtures, that was kind of a Victorian, I would call that last one, kind of a Victorian look.
I
But
would say,
do they not sit on, you showed on a metal pole.
they do, but
We don't have metal poles.
We don't have metal poles. Our concrete poles
They're
have a
spun
tenon
concrete, right.
that they would slide onto.
Right. But the look is going to be a little bit different than what
right.
you showed us, is what I'm saying.
And, correct.
Anodized
I
bronze
think what
look.
we have is we have a metal tenon with the banner arms, and that would slide onto the pole,
Okay,
and the fixture on top of that.
okay. David, do you want to jump in at any time? Feel free.
Sure, yeah, so I watched the same presentation to the, historic,
Preservation.
yeah, preservation board where, this won't be, I've seen these options, so I think there was one of the options that I think we'll be able to put up on screen here eventually that I felt probably does the best of continuing the same style that we currently have. I think it's this one here that was something of an Art Deco type feel. It's reminiscent of some of the other of the existing
I'm just looking
features.
through 'em.
Yeah.
We can go back to any-
Of our current fixture. So I would encourage that sort of approach where it's an evolution of what we currently have rather than like a major departure from what we currently have. And yeah, I think Jim, your point as to the poles being concrete instead of metal, these visualizations
Beige
are
colored concrete,
yeah it's.
dark anodized.
So I think from what I've understood is that the lower of the arms for the banner is going to remain attached to the existing pole, and we're talking about an arm for capturing the upper part of that banner within the new fixture. So those, I think, ultimately what that'll mean is the banners will actually wind up being a little bit higher than they currently are, I would assume.
They may at that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which I think would neither here nor there, but not a bad thing certainly. Yeah. So that's my 2 cents. Is
Do we have an image of the current fixture?
Yes, I'll get to that at
Okay.
the end.
In
This
place on a
fixture
pole.
here, at our HPC meeting, Beth Nodlin had provided us with some historic fixtures that we've had in the past. And I don't have it on this slide presentation, but this one looks similar to one of them. It's a little bit different shape, but the same general, I think it had the same general feel. I wanted to point that out to you. This is our current fixture.
But do we have an actual photograph of the fixture on the tan pole?
I'm sorry, I do not.
Okay, because the fixture that we have is the fixture that we have now. It's mostly a globe, but is the metallic part of it, is it a dark anodized bronze? Or
It is.
I can't remember, so.
It
We
is.
could all run outside real quick, I suppose, and look, but.
Chair Christensen, I
Yes,
think
sir.
if we go to the first item on the agenda, the pole that we were referencing that was in the way of the temporary,
Oh.
permanent, shows that.
Oh, there you go.
That's
Yeah.
correct. Yeah,
Yes, it did.
there's a photo.
Good one. Okay. There it is, right there, in front of me, right there, Steve. Yeah. So, all right. Well, if everybody's comfortable with it, because the new ones that you're showing us to replace that have quite a bit more dark anodized color to them, right?
They do.
Sitting on top of the, go ahead.
So that last one you showed, that one, does that come in that brown or anodized
Yes.
too?
Yes.
So that would be a better match to then just that pitch black.
I would agree.
And this one looks like the light points down, right?
It
So you
does.
have less
True.
light pollution.
Exactly, yes.
I believe that's a feature of all of the options, correct?
Well, some of them looked like they were pretty open on the top.
Yeah, can you rotate through again?
This one, we can actually get lenses in the side or no lenses and just a lens or the lights up on top and with no lenses. It creates a very different, I think, feel, and that's what kind of makes it very similar to the historic one that I saw before. So it,
Bet the bugs like that.
Yeah.
But it still provides adequate lighting for pedestrians. right?
absolutely.
Steve?
Can we go back
Is-
through the other ones? Sorry, Steve.
Is there a component of maintenance and upkeep that's one's better than the other?
Yes, and we've not dug into this to see which one is best. There's some that have power doors, and basically their components are all in one little door that we can pull out and change them out. And Public Works loves to work on those, and we'd certainly look for that option on any of these.
With the one that, the example that's up now, is it actually glass or is it like a plastic?
It's a polycarbonate.
Polycarbonate
yeah.
lens? Okay. Okay.
I find it very hard to get anything but polycarbonate or an acrylic unless it's a holophane. Holophane is kind of famous for their glass lenses, and almost everything you can get with glass with them. It's very hard to find glass in the other manufacturers.
Okay. Other questions? And again, I think we interrupted your presentation,
Oh.
Linda, I apologize, but,
I appreciate the free flow of questions and answers, and
Chair
Okay.
Christensen, I'm just going to ask, Linda, are you looking for a decision today or just more a report and giving us an update?
I am looking more as an update to let you know what we're looking at. Before I jump down this rabbit hole to look at cost estimates and how we could make this happen, I want to make certain that the downtown community is interested in doing this. I mean, if we like the fixture we have out there today, we will move ahead and work on getting the lights replaced to that. If we
Limp
want,
along.
pardon?
You'll just limp along.
So,
We
That's
will
not a
get
good
new
solution.
fixtures, but we don't have the opportunity to
Steve?
update them.
so Linda, timeline-wise, limping along and scavenging through, how long before you run out of stuff to fix stuff with?
As soon as eBay's out of stuff.
Exactly. Okay,
There are some fixtures that it will be, well, like I said, some of them, they're taped together already.
so it's not a question of if, but
Yes,
when.
yeah.
Absolutely, yeah.
Yeah.
So the ask is to start looking at these now so that the new lights that are being put on front can match these, correct?
Correct.
And what's the time frame for ordering those?
Those will go to bid this fall.
Okay, so we've got a little time.
And so I'd like to get it on that project before it goes out for bid.
Sure.
There is still an opportunity, once they've gone to bid, to change order them in, but we would rather not do that. We'd like to get them ordered.
Well, does
Yes.
anyone at the table have a heartburn with upgrading to LED and picking a new fixture?
I was gonna add, I think in the long run, it will actually save us money.
Oh, yeah.
You know, at some point, you just have to take the investment and go with it, so, yeah.
There may be some people at home that are watching that don't approve of this because there's a little bit of background to this, the City Center Partnership, of which I was vice chair in 1995 or whatever. Chair who shall not be named Bruce Whitty is the one that picked that out, and that's why we're having all these problems today, by the way, just so you know, so hopefully he's watching, so. It's all his
They are
fault.
27 years old.
So, yeah,
you know?
yes, that was 30 years ago, yeah, so.
Yes.
Back on a serious question though, and my anodized comment about putting a dark bronze cap on a light colored concrete pole, are they available in other shades or tones, bronze-ish or in tan or? is
They
it-
are
I don't-
not all wool. Black and dark bronze are the two
Sure.
standard colors.
Sure,
And, you know, knowing that we have dark bronze for our 30-foot poles, I thought it was kind of nice to match those.
well, maybe they're high enough that we, you know, again, David, from an architectural or design point of view, do you see, I mean, is anybody even gonna look up there and see it's a dark bronze cap on this lighter colored pole? Should we look at one, look at a,
Well, the poles down at the ground are
Right.
also the dark bronze.
well, not these poles, they're concrete.
Not those, but the 30-footers are.
Oh,
They're
I'm
a
sorry.
metal pole.
Right. But these aren't going on those,
No,
on those poles?
they would not.
Yeah.
Right.
No.
I would steer, you guys towards the dark bronze versus the black, certainly.
What about something lighter than bronze? If it's even available, I don't know.
Yeah, I think that question maybe,
Maybe we don't have choice.
we might not have enough information
It may not be an
before,
option.
Linda has a chance to do a little bit more research. I think you could give her direction to see if she can come up with options that are a little bit lighter. It probably wouldn't hurt to see an option or two that has options that are in the lighter range. I think at this point it's kind of, she's looking for feedback, I think, on which
Well,
direction to head here. So.
Right, and I think I have 5 options here. Which ones do you want me to look at? If you want me to look at 5, we're not going to make our deadline.
Is there a cost spec?
I haven't looked at cost at this point, but that's something we would want to look and compare as well.
Yes.
I recommend the last one, so I'll just say that to move the conversation.
Greg?
Chair Chris and authority members, I would stray away from custom colors because custom colors
Well,
are
yeah, no,
expensive
I
to start
agree
with.
with that.
And then whenever you
Is
need
this
to
the one?
replace them, the custom color doesn't match the custom color that you ordered the years before because of the UV stuff. So I would recommend that we stay with something that's uniform and can get ordered quickly because
And lasting.
they're gonna deteriorate anyways. They're gonna have to be replaced.
Okay, fair enough. So you want us to narrow the 5 down to 2 or 3? 1?
1, 2, let's say 1 or 2. I think
Okay,
I
let's
think we
go
can
through
do
them.
1 or 2.
It's
Let's
hard
go.
to make that decision without having price points on them.
How about we,
That's what the commission's gonna decide the price point. Put your want list together.
That's right, we don't have a budget, do we?
Art,
Yeah.
Mr. Chair, if I'm not mistaken, our purview in this board is design, right?
Yeah.
So pick a design that you like.
Yeah.
I've heard this one that we're looking at now is acceptable. David mentioned a previous one. I would suggest you limit it to those 2 and move
This
forward.
one?
That one
Yeah.
right there.
and,
Yeah,
woops,
The-
sorry, that one.
Yeah, I like this one.
those 2, if you want to price those. And
I'll price them and I'll see what I can find as far as the maintenance and the future maintenance of, they're both from Sternberg, very good company. They've been around a long time. We currently don't have fixtures with them, but I've worked with them when I was with another company. And they're very well known and very reputable, just like Hall of Fame.
do you want to bring this back to our next meeting at June 12th, or is that getting too far down the road for you?
I will
We could do this by email too.
let me gather the information and I will work through Isaac
work through
to
Isaac,
get
yeah.
on future
Okay, see?
agenda.
So
Okay.
for continuity's sake, at the point the 30-foot fixtures need to be replaced at some point, is there continuity between this and those then? And does Sternberg have something similar to that too, or?
The fixture we have been specifying for that, we have one for it. And I think it looks very similar to
Similar,
this. and we've been able to maintain them very well through the fixture that we have. So,
Okay. Other questions? If not, I think you have a consensus. right?
okay,
Thank you, Linda, for your time and for doing that.
absolutely. Thank you for your time.
All right. Item C on the other business agenda would be the Renaissance Zone Boundary Information. Isaac.
Thank you, Chair Christensen and authority members. I'll just add one more thing onto this discussion as I swap over to the other presentation. Is that in the downtown streetscape standards right now, it does often call out the bronze color in that document, and in the specification sheets, it does list the current fixture and the exact design specifications. So whatever is chosen, we will have to update those documents as needed. But that's something that staff can take on and bring to you if relevant.
Right.
But just wanted to make that note while I go back to the other presentation. Okay, so Chair Christensen and authority members, with our last other business item here, this is a continuation of something that staff brought briefly to your attention last month. So as a reminder to the authority and for the folks at home, the reason that staff were inquiring what the thoughts of the authority were regarding the current Renaissance Zone program boundary was due to some inquiries that staff have received from potential applicants to the program. We have, without getting into any particular possible projects, we have received what I would say is 4 serious inquiries. Of those 4, 1 is clearly in the program boundary, 1 is outside of the program boundary, and 2 are in blocks that have previously been closed. So were in the program at one point but are now currently not. So for the sake of discussion and for the sake of not showing any favoritism, staff wanted some direction to see if the authority was open to the idea of adding in another block somewhere, and if yes, what that might be. So what staff did in the in-between is we took the 5 sort of main criteria that the development plan calls out for analyzing when looking at whether or not to discuss bringing in blocks. Those were the age of structures, the condition of structures, the building to land value ratio, the rate of change of the building value according to the assessing department, and then a 5th one that staff added in was just distance to the current boundary of the zone. So that way, if a block was further away, in order to maintain a contiguous boundary, we would have to possibly add in multiple blocks to get to that one. Staff normalized each of those 5 categories to be on a 0 to 1 scale, 1 being, hey, this place is great and probably does not need to utilize any sort of incentive program to redevelop, and, a 0 meaning, this is most likely in more need of utilizing a program of some kind if they wanted to develop or redevelop there. So each of these blocks was given a score based off of those categories from 0 to 5, 5 being the best, 0 meaning the most need, and it's ranked as shown here. I will note a couple caveats that I also pointed out in the memo that was included in the agenda packets for you all, is that staff did exclude some blocks from this analysis if they were publicly owned, whether that be the city or the county or parks. But there are some others in here, such as, you can see the numbers on the blocks. There is the rank 1, meaning, the most need potentially, and in this case, 95 or whatever it is the least need based off of the analysis. So of the top 5, each of them has some form of tax-exempt structure on them or tax-exempt property there. So I do want to be very transparent about that. So, take blocks 1, 2, and 3, for example. Those are either parking lots or tax-exempt in some way. So that category of building to land value ratio is 0 because there is no taxable value there in this case, or the rate of change is 0 because there was no change, for example. So just wanted to bring this as sort of a general overview of sort of if the authority was interested in discussing this further. This is a starting point, for example, but if the authority is not interested in discussing this further, that is also a direction that staff will, we can halt the discussion here. But wanted to bring this to your attention after staff have taken a little more time to dig into this, but we can also dig into it more at your discretion.
Okay, so this is just an update.
This is an
basically,
update at this point,
obviously.
yes.
Questions of Isaac? Questions or comments or recommendations? Or-
The one last thing I will
I'm
add,
sorry, I thought you were
which I should have said as I was going through my spiel there, is that just as a reminder, if you wanted to discuss adding in more blocks, we are currently at 41 and a half blocks based off of our population. We could have up to 47 blocks, so there's some wiggle room of adding in, up to 5.5 more blocks if that was the direction of the authority. Just adding that for context as well.
Comments, questions? Anybody? Joe?
This is, you may not need to answer, but the purpose of this is to be able to show the public where we'd be willing to go
And
with the
why.
project, like we had in the previous plan, right? Like, that's the whole purpose of this. So if there's a project that approaches and says, hey, we've got a project, we're within this area, or within a block that you're willing to go to, like, you're expecting someone to ask at some point is the whole purpose of this, right?
Yes, Authority Member Fink, that is correct. And Chair Christensen and Authority members, again, without going into details, since, public information is only public when we get applications and things like that, the inquiry that is outside of the block of the current boundary, but, could be a part of it, it is in one of these blocks, but I will not say which one at this time.
And Isaac, just for information, once a block's been closed, it cannot be reopened, correct?
Yes, as of right now, that is correct.
Because you said one of the inquiries was on, two of them were on closed blocks.
Yes. We did reach out to our contacts at the state to see if there was any previous discussion about whether or not, blocks could come back in. They said that, others have raised that discussion point before, but there is no current plans of changing the state law to allow previously closed blocks to come back in.
Thank you.
Can you tell us what buildings or properties exist on blocks 1, 2, and 3 right today?
Currently, what is shown there as blocks 1 and 2, Chair Christensen and authority members, that is primarily a parking lot for, I believe, CHI. On the southeast corner of Block 2, there is a structure there. It is tax exempt, but there is a structure. Block 3 is also primarily medical buildings and some parking lots. The reason we kept these in, even though they are in some cases tax exempt, either part of the block or all of the block, is in theory, those entities could sell those properties and or develop them in some way that they would no longer be tax exempt. So in theory, they could utilize the program, but whether or not they would ever do that themselves or sell their property so someone else could, we certainly cannot speculate with that.
So going from the least of the blocks to the most attractive to get a bang for our buck, what would be the ones that are, it's hard to read the dark blue, the black numbers on the dark blue? Right above.
Yes, the lower numbers
lower
would be
numbers,
the
okay.
more likely to need
Yeah, that's okay,
based
that's what
off
I
of
was
the
gonna ask.
analysis.
Thank you. Okay.
One last question,
Joel.
Chair, if I could. Does this itself, the identification of where we'd be willing to go, constitute a change to the plan which needs to go to all the other entities?
Authority Member Fink, Chair, and Authority members, yes, if there were a formal request to change the boundary of the program, that would constitute a change to the development plan, which would eventually go back to all of the representative boards.
Yeah, I'm sorry, just to clarify, just this. We're not being asked today to do anything other than identify where we would be willing to go to.
Yes, so Authority Member Fink, if there were a formal request to go to other blocks, there would need to be a public hearing and things like that. So that is not what we are requesting right now. We are just asking for further direction of do we want to keep talking about this?
I'll chime in quickly
Yes,
here.
the map is
Yeah,
not
David?
official. Thank you.
Yeah, so this looks like it's really useful exercise for the staff to be able to give feedback on an applicant about how likely is it that this could be extended to, assuming the criteria they use to create this map is something you feel is in line with the priorities of the program. So I think the most useful feedback that Isaac could get right now is those 5 categories and the methodology of it. How accurate is that to kind of what you guys would feel comfortable with, as the basis for extending the boundary one way or another. So I think that probably is the most useful feedback you could get at the moment. So.
Joe?
Yeah, just going to, your justification for the scoring criteria seemed right on. I mean, you
Yeah, I
used the
think it's
plan
good.
itself, you used the identify, there was one additional one, I think was property, is it the taxation?
Distance to the
Distance from the current zone.
zone was the
So I
fifth
think
one.
that's another relevant point to add. I don't see any flaw in what you've done to be able to help identify which blocks.
I think there could be complimented
all right.
on this approach,
Yeah.
I agree. So,
And we could certainly weight things differently if the board felt like that was relevant. For example, there were some blocks that the taxable value went down, but assessing still believed the condition of the structures was, not horrible, but, about average or so, but the taxable value did go down. So there was a negative number in that category, but still had a 0 to 5 value somewhere in that range. So we treated each category as being equal. If the authority had preference of trying to weight things differently or look at things differently, we can certainly do that and continue this exercise. But yes, that is what we have done up to this point.
I don't know that we want to get into the weeds. I think you've done a good job of that.
Okay.
I think the question, I mean, historically, as you know, maybe you don't, because even predated you, but we don't chase projects, right? So we appreciate you not telling us anything about potential projects. But do we want staff to continue this exercise? Have they gone far enough? Do we want to start talking about potential blocks to add, Kirsten?
Can I, again, you don't have to say how many, or who or whatever, but about how many people have just expressed interest?
In general?
If we, in general terms, are we talking 1, are we talking 10?
Well, so Authority Member Dvorak, Chair Christensen, and Authority members, in terms of the actual people, sort of per project who is interested, I suppose I can't necessarily know for sure, but as I mentioned, there have been 4 projects in the recent past that have inquired about using the program in one way, shape, or form.
Can you tell us the nature? I mean, is it housing? Is it?
I feel like we're playing 20 questions with
Yeah.
Isaac here. This isn't fair.
Well, so Chair Christensen and authority members, according to the development plan, it could be either. It could be residential, it could be commercial, it could be mixed use.
Presumably it's something that fits the development plan.
Correct.
Yes, it would have to be something that advances the goals and objectives of the development plan.
Strip clubs out. Was my mic
2
on?
minutes.
Yeah, we got it. Okay. Well, what direction would you like to give staff? I guess, we should probably continue this discussion at the next meeting and actually get down into the nitty gritty of blocks if we're going to go, instruct them.
Yeah,
that
I
we
mean,
wanna add some.
I personally am open to being able to utilize the Renaissance Zone as we need to. Again, I'll say, we need to be strategic on what blocks we add, but I think we have a reserve of blocks that's there for this particular purpose, is identify where we'd be willing to go. So we're not chasing projects, we're saying, if you have something that is not currently within the zone, we'd be willing to extend out to it. And I think you've done a great job being able to at least identify those to someone looking at a project somewhere.
Do we want to take it to the next step and say, these blocks are way below where they can be, and let's bring them into the zone and see what happens?
Chair Christensen, sorry, go ahead.
Sure, Chris.
Commissioner?
So I would just remind us, that we did that with the machine district. Everybody was interested, went through the process, got it all done, and we have had 0 projects so far through that. So just bringing them on and hoping somebody does it.
Doesn't mean
even
that's
though his staff did, and Daniel at that time did it, and he did a great job. There's interest, but when it was implemented, there has been 0 interest. So I would like to see a little bit more detail as to what we're gonna do and which blocks we're specifically talking about, and to why. And does it meet the standard? The late Representative Kaiser always said it was for Blythe, so does it truly meet that standard? And I kind of hang my hat on that, so to speak.
Okay. Well, let's continue it to the next meeting,
Yeah.
right? I mean, let's keep it alive.
Certainly.
Thank you, Isaac, and Daniel, for all your work on this. Other business for the good of the order? Anybody have anything today? Hearing and seeing none. If there's no objection, we stand adjourned until June 12th. Thank you, everybody, for your time.